Well, the FBI ignored warnings about Nicholas Cruz in Florida. In Garland, Texas, an agent directly assisted Islamic extremists who attempted to commit a massacre. Now it turns out that the FBI recruited the father of Pulse nightclub shooter Omar Mateen as an informant. And yet, somehow, despite that, they didn't notice that Mateen was plotting this massacre, they say. They covered up that failure for nearly 2 years. Glenn Greenwald is the co-founder of The Intercept. He joins us tonight. Glenn, you've written a bunch of stories on this, and at first I wondered why, because it seemed like a pretty straightforward story. I thought we knew kind of what we were going to know, but you were right. There was a lot we didn't know. Tell us what we didn't know about this massacre.
The primary narrative that the media circulated pretty much until this minute is totally false, namely that Omar Mateen went into Pulse with the intention to target gay people. Lots of people love this narrative. The right loved it because they like to depict Muslims as being incompatible with the West and hating gays. The left loved it because it put LGBTs as the victim of a hate crime. The security state loved it because they like to pretend they defend liberalism with the CIA and the FBI. The reality is that he had never been to Pulse. He had gone to multiple other locations in the days leading up to the attack and on that day that had nothing to do with the gay community. Disney, other places that he had judged were too fortified by security. And he chose Pulse randomly by entering Google and asking, what is a Orlando downtown nightclub? The evidence is overwhelming that he was motivated, not anything to do with gays, but by what he said during the entire attack, which was it was being done in retaliation for what he perceived as 15 years of U.S. killing of Muslims, yes, women and children who are innocent in Muslim countries.
Interesting. Now we learn that his father was an FBI informant. This fits a pattern with these massacres, and I don't think we know enough to really understand what it means, but tell us what we do know about this.
Well, so the FBI has been caught lying repeatedly throughout this case. The day after the Pulse attack, they detained his wife for 17 hours. She had a small infant. She has a very low IQ. And they got her to sign a statement that was filled with false claims, including the fact that she had gone to Pulse with her husband to case it. They investigated it, and they determined, the FBI did, that she had never been to Pulse. They got her to sign a false statement by threatening they would take away her child, by playing on her vulnerabilities, and they hid from the court the fact that many of the key statements, the incriminating ones that they got her to sign, were false. What they also hid, not just from the court, but from her lawyers, was this critical fact, namely that Omar Mateen's father, who they had planned to call as a witness, was working as an informant very closely with the FBI for 11 years, from 2005 to 2016. The FBI had twice investigated Omar Mateen after he was boasting about having connections to terrorism, and they decided they wouldn't investigate him further. They weren't going to arrest him. They weren't going to do anything. Jim Comey said, we're going to provide an explanation about why we made that choice. To date, they've never done so. When we called them for comment, they refused. And as it turns out, they were talking to their informant during the time they were investigating Omar Mateen. It's pretty clear that they decided not to arrest him because they were working so closely with his father, a fact, as you said, that they concealed from everybody until just a couple days ago.
That is, it's just I mean, you or I lie to the FBI, we're charged with a felony. They lie to us. It's no big deal. I see you're wearing a remembrance on your lapel for a Rio de Janeiro city council member shot after advocating there. That's a really interesting story. We're out of time, but we're going to tweet out a link to that story. You've written about it a lot on The Intercept, and I think it's worth our viewers hearing about. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight, Glenn.
Thank you, Tucker.